This is always the same thing. Technology has to betray us. Until the slides come, I'm going to talk from, what I have in front of me on my computer. So the first one is about just the background. Background is in March of this year, we got the NTIA, the National Telecommunication Information Agency in the US, that announced its, and that is the body that normally has the oversight of the IANA, announced its intention to basically transition the oversight of the IANA functions to the rest of the community. The IANA functions include the Global Registry of Internet Number Resources, so IP addresses and AS numbers for, things that concern us. Afrinic is, of course, one of the key stakeholders, and we have other functions inside IANA that are the the DNS root zone management and protocol parameter registries. ICANN is contracted by the NTIA to manage the IANA functions operation. So currently, what's the relationship? RIRs derive their authority from their communities. It's plus the IETF, RFC 7020, and ICANN recognition via something that we call the ICP2. All of this you can actually find on the internet later on, or come see us, so we can give you a little bit more information on what that is. The NRO, the Number Resource Organization, has an MOU with ICANN that deals with the ASO, which is the Address Support Organization inside ICANN. And that's how basically policies that have been developed by the communities on the ground go to the level of ICANN in terms of global policies. The NRO pays ICANN a negotiated fee. So all the 5 RIRs come together and pay something that goes to, ICANN to support the IANA services. The IETF also has an MOU with ICANN. NTIA, so the US government, has a contract with ICANN to perform the IANA functions. Afrinic and IANA, Afrinic and the other RIRs actually obtain the resources from IANA. And they occasionally, like right now, return, some of the addresses that are unused back to IANA, or that have been used and returned. This is done according to policies that have been, set up by us, the communities. This is passed to ICANN. Basically, the global policies are passed to ICANN to ratify via the NRO Number Council. That is the same one, basically, that is at Address Supporting Organization. So even those basically interactions are really quite limited. It doesn't happen like every day. And the RIRs in general go to IANA requesting resources once or twice per year, a little bit more probably lately. So this is a graphic that has that we have been working on with RIPE, our sister organization for Europe. And this is, courtesy to them that I'm using it today. That kind of tells you a little bit what is going on in terms of the policy making, what is operational, and I don't know if you can see it properly, but the dotted yellow lines are the contractual side, between NTIA and IANA. So when you look at what is in between the RIRs and the IANA function, basically the relation is totally operational, all right? So, and one of the things that we have to keep in mind is just simply that part of that process, as some here will tell you, doesn't really have that oversight relation. So what is oversight? Oversight has historically sat with the U.S. Department of Defense and then, the Department of Commerce. And when it comes to the numbers part inside IANA, it's pretty hands-off. When AFRINIC goes to IANA and says, we want numbers, the IANA doesn't go to USG to say, is it okay to give it to them? They hand them over. NTIA has no direct role. There's a significant role in the making, holding, changing contract for IANA operational management. That was the contract that we've been talking about. And past contract renewals have had updated service terms. And in fact, the IANA stakeholders like the RARs and the rest of the community has been participating in terms of say in what should be in there. Oversight transition. So this is what the NTIA is saying they would like to do. NTIA established certain ground rules, though, for that to happen. This process has to be global, multi-stakeholder, and it has to have the following 4 principles. Support and enhance the multi-stakeholder model, maintain the security, stability, resiliency of the Internet DNS, meet the needs and expectations of the global customers and partners of the IANA service, and maintain the openness of the Internet. AFRINIC's contribution, so in the discussion ever since March, ICANN has established its own mailing list, and there's a full page, and Teresa will tell you a bit more about that. There's a full page of information that you can find about the process and the way forward. AFRINIC in there is one of the stakeholders that has agreed to also take the discussion to the level of their communities. And we're going to have, we have a page. We're having a mailing list that is going to be called IANA Oversight at afrinic.net, and it will be up very soon, so you guys can send in any opinions and information that you need to see going forward. Output from these discussions will be fed into the global process that ICANN is coordinating. Again, Teresa will tell you a bit more about that. Some of the questions that I would like for us to look at, and these are questions that also we fed into the RIPE community about 3 weeks ago. What do these NTIA requirements, the ones that were in red in 2 slides ago, mean for a new oversight arrangement? To what extent must this oversight be multi-stakeholder? Do major changes put at risk the security, stability, and resiliency of the Internet DNS? How does oversight, particularly the Internet number function, because this is what we are here for, affect the openness of the Internet? And where do RAR communities fit in the future model? Again, you have to go back to the fact that the community makes the policies, and this is what the Regional Internet Registry works with. And what would that mean for our community processes here in the African region? All right? So there you go. This is the end of my presentation. I'm going to give the floor to Teresa. Is she ready, Neria? Good. Teresa is online with us, and she's going to try and either, give you a little bit of background in what is going on inside ICANN right now, and also probably touch on some of the questions here. Thank you. Teresa, you have the floor.
I'll assume that's a yes. Excellent. First of all, I'm terribly sorry I can't be there in person. Let's see. I have an echo here, so let me just see if I can try to deal with this. Okay. Okay, I'll just go ahead. So as Anne-Rochelle had mentioned, and I know that others on the panel will touch on this, the mentioned, and I know that others on the panel will. The next second. Sorry, the echo is very bad. I'm just trying to see if there's a way to do this. Sorry, the echo is very bad. Let's see. Should I maybe try to dial in by phone? Okay, I see. I see. Okay. There. Is that better? Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's much better. I had the video on. My apologies. Okay. So first of all, my apologies for not being able to be there in person, and also thank you for the opportunity to be joining the panel here, and to my colleague Pierre, who will also be addressing many of the different points. I think Anne-Rochelle had already outlined some of the key issues with regards to the background. The announcement made on the 14th of March was really quite historical in the context that it demonstrates a enormous amount of work by the broad community, including the community in all the different regions, to bring the multi-stakeholder process and to bring the opportunity to be discussing the stewardship and the transition of NTI's role in the context of the IENA functions. So I think this is a very historical opportunity. Sorry. Okay. Is this better? Okay. Okay, fantastic. Sorry, it was a good test of remote participation. So the announcement on the 14th of March, it was quite important, and I think it's very important for all of us as a wider community to be looking at this and to be engaged in the process itself. The framework that was provided to guide the discussions, including in the context of the 4 principles, was very important, and I know that there'll be a discussion later on about what this actually means. I think one area that would be relevant is that it really sets out the criteria of reinforcing the multi-stakeholder model, reinforcing the important work of AFRINIC and all the organizations in the different regions, and reinforces the work that has occurred already around retaining security, stability, and resiliency of the Internet, the policy processes that already exist in the different regions and in the different organizations, and all the efforts to maintain the openness. That is all the work that has related to making the Internet successful to what it is today, looking at how to transition NTI's stewardship role and retain that, of course. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, of course, as a broad global community. In the context of where the process has been so far, we've received a huge amount of comments. And again, ICANN is the facilitator. We are not running the process. We are facilitating it with the community. The comments that had been received in Singapore, and then also subsequent to that through the public comment period, and through different events and dialogues occurring at different meetings, including at the Net Mundial meeting in April, provided some very good input into what was then posted as a call for public input on the draft proposal on principles and mechanisms and processes to develop the proposal for NTI stewardship transition of the INF functions. And it may seem a bit odd to be running a process to discuss a process, but what is important is that there's agreement about what the process actually looks like. Again, we received a huge amount of comments, and thank you for everybody who contributed to that. The comments focused in on areas around what a steering group composed of the relevant affected parties and stakeholders more broadly could look like, dialogue around principles and mechanisms, and it also had a document posting on what the scope is for this process itself. Feedback more broadly identified that potentially calling this a steering group may be the wrong term. It also identified that it's going to be very important that the different communities self-select and have the opportunity to self-select. And also that obviously the work of the coordination group must be respectful of the policy processes that are already occurring and the accountability mechanisms that are already occurring in the different organizations that are the affected parties of the relevant INF functions. So that was a broad range of the feedback that occurred. On the next steps, the material and the comments have been looked at and have been compiled. We anticipate that by the end of this week, the publication of the process incorporating the input should be made available to the public and will be posted again on the website that was referenced earlier. In that, it will cover an overview of the community input, in particular on the composition of the coordination group, again formally referred to as the steering group. It also will look at calling for the respective community members to begin self-selecting. There's a lot of feedback around the importance of self-selection opportunities. And then there's also, of course, the community input with regards to the work and the modes of work and operation in relation to the coordination group's work are there for consideration, of course, by the coordination group as is appropriate. So again, the expectation is that this will be posted by the end of this week, and that the community can then begin its self-selection mechanisms for what would be the composition of the coordination group, which then has the responsibility of working with the respective communities to come up with a proposal that, again, meets the criteria that have been outlined at the beginning, as set forth also by NTIA. One area I just wanted to highlight quickly, I don't want to take too much time, is that the discussions around this transition of NTI stewardship role in the context of the INF functions also raised a broader topic about the impact of the transition on ICANN accountability. And so in order to ensure that the actual aspects of ICANN accountability are addressed, while the community is looking at the stewardship transition role of the INF functions specifically, so this process that we're talking about here, a separate process has also been launched that looks at how to enhance and strengthen ICANN's accountability overall in any sort of absence of its historical contractual relationship with the U.S. government and any perceived backstop with regards to ICANN's organization-wide accountability. So that document also has been posted, and that includes an inventory of existing accountability mechanisms for the organization and poses questions and calls for an open working group with expertise around the areas of accountability mechanisms, and there's a listing in that document in order to be specifically looking at this area. I think one very important point, and I touched on this at the beginning, is that it's really the result of all the community work that has enabled this opportunity to occur. And I would very much encourage and was grateful to hear that AFRINIC is also launching some dialogues, that there's input into these processes from all regions and from all stakeholders of the world, because that's the only way that the the proposal and the next steps can be successful on a global level. So with that, I'll end, and if I can answer any questions, I'm more than happy to, and I hope I haven't exceeded my time too much.
Thanks very much, Teresa. And it's practically 2:30 a.m. for Teresa, so I hope you can stay awake and take a few questions. I'm going to give the floor now next to Adiel. Adiel, the CEO of Afrinic, is also this year chairing the NRO, and he'll tell you a bit more about what is basically a global construct the regional internet registries are doing together around this issue. Thank you very much, Adiel.
Thank you very much, Anne Rochelle, and thank you, Teresa. As explained before, we as AIR are one of the key beneficiaries of IANA service or IANA function globally, because IANA mainly perform its function in three categories. We have the number resources, we have protocol parameters, and we have route management related to domain name. So we have been following this very closely at the NRO level and as areas as well. We have had several consultations on this to how can we engage our community. One of the main concern that we all agree on and we have raised is that we as area, we derive our legitimacy mainly through our bottom-up process where the community play an important role, and we do not want that to be undermined at the end of the process. We want to make sure that that stay our main element of legitimacy. So in our response to ICANN consultation on the process, we have suggested, and this has been supported by the IAB and the IETF as well, that ICANN maybe should ask the three main stakeholders that benefit from its service to run consultation with their community as well, so that they can have a very specific input to it. So we at the NRO level are working in that direction as RAR, using something that we use for global policy development. This is not a policy development process, it has to be clear. But because we have a global policy development process, we want to adapt it to this process. We are working on a timeline whereby each RAR will engage their community respectively, starting from their first meeting of the year through a panel like that one we're having right now, followed by a discussion online, a consolidation process will happen then sometime in January next year. If we manage to have a common view on how we approach this, that's fine. Otherwise, we will go back again to another round of consultation until we finalize this for probably July. Another thing we are doing is, as Anne Rachel says, when it comes to number resources, the IANA oversight through the NTIA is not something that is really exercised. That means we have global policy that our community, has developed. Those global policy are what IANA use to register global resources, to allocate number to us. That allocation doesn't go through any oversight procedure per se. So we are trying to document the whole web of agreement of service level requirement policy, which we have between us and ICANN, between us and IANA. This involves as well documenting some of the role that the IETF play in delegating management of those number and protocol parameter to ICANN. So that work is underway now, and that is part of our framework as well, to try to properly document what we have right now what is what is it that really we are going to replace, and make sure that we as area keep our community within the framework of the oversight mechanism that will come. So this is the kickoff of the process in our region. We will have a mailing list where discussion will happen in a more broader way, but everything that we will say and hear here will be input to the overall discussion. So do not hesitate to let us know what you think. Really, that is what we are looking for here. And how do you see this whole transition process going? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Adil. Pierre, if you allow me, I'm going to jump to Moaz, and I'll come back to you, in the end. Okay? Moaz, please.
Thank you, Anne. It's really important to highlight those questions today, and I think that we need also to highlight other issues, because you know that in African continent, what is our priority actually? Is it to deal with this transition, or to develop our internet and to develop our community? And I think those two questions need to be highlighted today, because of course we welcome this transition and all this discussion and all these multi-stakeholder approaches that have been adopted to discuss these IANA functions. But also we have, Afrinic is doing a very good job in these consultations, and I think we need to get feedback, to get right feedback from them, and what we need to focus on is much more on in the development.
statement that welcomed the NTIA announcement as far as the transitioning of IANA oversight, and also emphasized the need that one would need to make sure that whatever processes were followed, whatever mechanisms are put in place, that we do not disrupt the stability of the internet, and that the internet remains free, secure, and open. Lastly, I think I just want to mention that, and this is now a personal reflection, I think that there's a lot of concern in terms of this whole transition process and how it plays out, in the sense that while one wants to preserve and uphold the multi-stakeholder nature as has been required or requested by NTIA, I think there is a fear that depending on how the process evolves, that there is that fear that perhaps multi-stakeholderism, depending on how it's implemented, may render the process subject to capture by certain entities that may then disrupt the stability and resilience of the internet. And I think those are the things that we need to maybe have discussions about, and also have discussions in terms of understanding then what is our role as African stakeholders in making sure that we are contributing to upholding the stability and resilience of the internet. I know that there is a lot of talk about the role of the ITU and how the ITU is going to factor into this. And I think as Africans, we have to recognize that there's 54 countries that are represented in the ITU, and that's a significant number. And we have to be able to then make sure that whatever views we're advancing, that they are made in a way that seeks to actually preserve and protect the stability of the internet. Thank you.